When you think of 3D platform collectathons for the Nintendo 64, obviously the first two games that come to mind are Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Maybe Donkey Kong 64 if you really love collectibles, or maybe you think of some underdogs like Rayman 2, Glover, or maybe even Gex. That one just got a remaster, so I'm sure there's some Gex fans out there. But while all these platformer mascots are hanging out at the cool kids table, there's one that I personally loved as a kid, but I never see anybody talking about it, and that is Rocket Robot on Wheels. This game was made by Sucker Punch back in 1999, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because they went on to make the Sly Cooper games, which was a huge series for PlayStation 2. But Rocket walked, or I guess rolled, so Sly Cooper could run. The game follows the same mascot platformer formula that was so popular at the time, but has a lot of unique mechanics and great gameplay and even a physics engine that not a lot of other games were doing at the time. There's 7 themed worlds to explore, a hub world connecting them all, minigames, and even different vehicles, but for some reason this game just flew under the radar. IGN even called it the sleeper Nintendo 64 hit of the year. I don't even really have a theory as to why this game isn't more popular because it's really good. Donkey Kong 64 came out around the same time, so it might have been a bit overshadowed, and it was the developer's first project, so maybe the marketing wasn't great. But looking back at it, I seriously think this game is on par with Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie in terms of quality. And I remember having so much fun playing this game as a kid, but I never actually beat it back then. I don't think it was too hard or anything, but I just wasn't an epic gamer back then, and unless my parents bought me the Prima strategy guide, I wasn't beating any games. But in today's video, I'm going to rectify that by not only beating this game, but I'll be getting every single achievement in the game using Retro Achievements, a platform that adds achievement support to all of your favorite classic games. There are 33 achievements to collect, and to get them all, we're going to have to collect every single collectible in the game and 100% complete it. So does the game live up to the fond memories I have of it, or is it just nostalgia blinding my judgment? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out in today's video. If you're new to the channel, my name's Nostalgic Juice. I'm on a quest to replay all the classic nostalgic games from my childhood and collect all their achievements. So if you like 100% completion and achievement hunting type videos, make sure that you subscribe because I'm uploading one just like this every single week. With that said, let's jump in and start our quest to 100% this game. The game begins up here at the space station above Whoopee World a day before its grand opening. The owner, Dr. Gavin, is off to a party to celebrate, and we're tasked with keeping an eye on things while he's gone. Everything should be automated by these machines, so it's supposed to be an easy night shift. We just gotta take care of the animal mascots, Whoopee and Jojo, the latter of which is definitely up to no good. He doesn't want to share the spotlight with Whoopee and is planning on taking him out and taking over the theme park. Literally, not even 2 seconds after the owner leaves and Jojo breaks out of his cage, kidnaps Whoopee, steals all the tokens and tickets, and whacks us with a hammer before dragging Whoopee off to carry out his plan to take over the park. We chase after him as he enters Whoopee Land and he leaves behind a ticket. Tickets are the game's main collectible, and we'll have to collect every single one of them for one of our achievements. We also need them to activate ticket switches, which open up the levels. Inside the park, we meet Trinket, another robot employee who tells us he can help us learn new moves in exchange for Tinker tokens, which are the breadcrumb collectibles in this game that are scattered across each level, and of course collecting all of them is another achievement. I found a few in this lobby here, and it was a good chance to get a feel for the controls. And I found this key inside of a block, which gives us a chance to try out Rocket's tractor beam. We can pick up small items and carry them around and even throw them. I couldn't figure out how to get this key free from the block, so I just chucked it at Trinket and headed into the first level, Clowny Island. Inside of each level we have 12 tickets to collect, and our first one we can find up on these flowers. I also found this little screw guy who's lost, so I took him with me to go find his home. Then I found a machine part, another collectible that we're going to have to look out for. Each level has 7 of these to find, and they'll let us activate the level's machine that lets us explore new areas. I found the second machine part near this carnival tent and went inside, but I guess our little screw buddy didn't want to come with us. Here in the midway, we can play a few mini games to test our throwing skills. First we have to feed the presidents, then we have a classic carnival game, Down the Clown, and the game even robs you, just like in real carnivals. The last game is a round of tic-tac-toe against this mechanical chicken, and we can cheat this by throwing balls at him before he makes his move. After winning all 3 games, we get our second ticket. Back outside, we meet this race car who challenges us to a race, and I thought he was gonna give us a car, but no, he just takes off and leaves us in the dust. Halfway through the race, I found another machine part and this button that looks like it will get us a car, but we'll have to find it somewhere in the level first, so that's one more thing to look out for. I finally catch up to the car and he tells me, "Don't sweat it, little buddy," as if he didn't just scam us. So we'll come back to him when we find that car. I found the next machine part in this field and figured out where the screws need to go, so I had to go round them all up, and I even have to wrestle one off this robot clown who stole it from me. Once all 4 were in place, that unlocks this mini game where we can build our own roller coaster, and I've played my fair share of Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I was right at home. As a side note, if any retro achievement developers happen to be watching this, please make a set for this game. It's my absolute favorite niche nostalgic game, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who even remembers it. But I would love to make a video about this one. In fact, right now, I want everybody watching, leave me a comment down below. What's your favorite niche childhood game? And I mean something really obscure. Don't tell me Ocarina of Time or something. I want to hear crappy licensed movie games that ended up being really fun, or maybe just some random games nobody's ever heard of. Completing the roller coaster gets us another ticket, and while searching for those screws, I spotted the car. And there's a little mini game here where we have to drive through these rings within a time limit, which is a great place to practice because this car drives like it's one of those inflatable hot dogs that you win at arcades, which is pretty fitting considering the level's theme. It took me a few tries, but I eventually got the hang of it, and winning the minigame gets us another ticket. While we're on the beach, we can get our next ticket by platforming across these floating boxes, and using Rocket's tractor beam to swing off this lamp. I also grabbed this booster pack under the water, which increases our health bar, and you already know there's an achievement for getting all of these as well. It is a collectathon after all. Now that we got the hang of driving, I went back to challenge that car to another race, and this time I wiped the floor with him. He's not so tough now that we've evened the playing field, and we grab another ticket for beating him. Back at the roller coaster, there's actually a second mini game that we can play where I have to build a track that will pass through these numbered checkpoints. And it was kind of tricky because you have to go in the correct order, and if you guys know me, I'm not the best at puzzles. But I figured out the trick is you can overlap the tracks if you have a higher rail going over a lower one. So with that trick, I was able to figure it out, and as I was riding the roller coaster, I even spotted this sneaky little token hidden in the far corner. And for clearing the next minigame, we get another ticket. There's this building that Trinket says is closed, but there's a back room for employees, and while trying to figure out where that was, I spotted another machine part under this ramp. I thought we had to jump into this beehive for some reason, and I tried jumping off the car, then I had the big brain idea to go find some boxes to jump off of, and I found another machine part while looking for them. You would think, after me struggling to do this, I would think surely this is not how we're intended to do this, but instead I grabbed a third item to stack, only to then realize the door was on this side the entire time.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Inside the building, I can see why this is closed to the public. Surely there are some OSHA violations going on in here. I even had to jump this gap to get the last machine part. We also get our first taste of real platforming as we try to rock the seesaws to get some tokens and balance across the rotating log for another ticket. Now that we have the machine parts, we actually get our first retro achievement for completing the first machine, and that gets us a ticket as well as access to this room where we have to platform our way up some conveyor belts, across the robot shark infested pond, and even up these moving handlebars, which at first felt really janky. I definitely struggled a bit here, but eventually I got the hang of it. I feel like a lot of people play older games like this and would call them clunky, which is a buzzword that I personally just is a pet peeve of mine. You know the TV trope where the jukebox isn't working and then the cool guy walks in all slick and hits it in just the right spot and then it works? That's how I feel about older games. Someone might play Sonic Adventure 2 and then die because they missed a homing attack and then blame the game and call it clunky because they're used to the newer games doing all the work for you. Modern games are so much more intuitive, but the older games aren't clunky, you just gotta figure out the rhythm to it. And that takes some trial and error, and the truth is most people just don't want to do that. They want a game they can win on the first try. I'm not saying every old game is perfect, there are definitely some games with genuinely jank-ass controls, but I feel like this mindset is why so many games are designed to be much easier today. And I think it's part of the reason why these 3D platform collectathons aren't as popular as they once were, which is a shame because these games are really fun, which is why I'm still playing them 26 years later. We finally make it up to the top and grab another ticket, and then carefully gotta slide down this dinosaur's back to grab some tokens. We have 2 more tickets to collect, and one of them's hidden on top of the midway, and we need a box to jump off of so we can reach these light bulbs to grab onto. I like how the game creatively works these grabbable objects into the level design. It lets them hide secrets like this in plain sight and rewards experimentation, even if sometimes the experimentation is dead wrong. The last ticket in each level is for getting all the tokens, and to do that, we have to quickly exit the level and talk to Trinket, who gives us a new move. Now we can slam objects into the ground with our tractor beam, and we also get an achievement for unlocking this new move. So with that, we can go back and smash all the trash cans in the level for the last few tokens, which gets us our final ticket as well as 2 achievements, one for getting all the tokens and one for getting all the tickets in the level. With our new move, we can also open that box with the key, and that opens up the rest of the park and our next level, Paint Misbehavin. Here we find a door which we can't open without finding 3 colored medallions hidden inside objects. We also find this level's vehicle right at the start, and we have to use these poor sheep as stepping stones by sticking them to these vines. The hover splat was so much fun though. It's a hover car with a paintball cannon and almost every surface in the level is paintable. I'm actually really impressed with the level of detail here. The next medallion is in the next area, guarded by this mosquito enemy. These guys are super annoying, but they're also dumb because this one gave me a boost up onto this ledge to get a purple token. In that same area, we have this room with a puzzle. These colored orbs are orbiting this area, and when the colors match up with the crystals beneath them, there's an electric current. So we gotta grab the hover splat and recolor them all so that they get zapped at the same time, which gets us our first ticket of the level. On the way out of the room, we find the first machine part, and then the second one's in the next area, along with this statue that's throwing stones, which we can actually grab onto to fly over this gap into the next room. Here we meet this Imperial guard who says we're not allowed inside to collect this ticket since we're not a guard. And one thing I really like about this game is the way they hint at what you're supposed to do without directly telling you. This guy says, "My eyes aren't perfect, but I can tell you aren't wearing the colors." So that implies we have to be wearing those colors. And even the platform is a hint that we need orange on the bottom and green on the top. And there's these pools of paint nearby, but instead of just giving us green and orange paint, we have to figure out what colors to combine to make those. So I hope you were paying attention in elementary school. Yellow and blue makes green, and then we dip the lower half of Rocket's body into the clear water to rinse off. And then red and yellow make orange. That tricks the guard into letting us grab the ticket, and we also get an achievement for this being our 15th one. The third medallion is also here, which opens up the door to the second half of the level, which gets us another ticket and achievement. Inside there, I get taken out by a mosquito. Thankfully, death means nothing in this game. You have infinite lives and no progression is lost. You just get booted back to the start of the level, which is kind of rare in older games like this, so it makes this a very casual, friendly platforming game. When I went back for round 2, I accidentally grabbed him with my tractor beam, and it just now dawned on me that we can destroy these guys. That would have been so good to know 10 seconds ago. We can climb this tree and make our way over to the switch, which opens up another ticket. I also found another machine part as I was climbing through this half of the level, and I eventually made my way to this area where the machine is, and I found another one. There's a ring minigame here, but it was obvious that we're missing another vehicle, so I had to go back and find it in the area that we started. So now we got Finbot, a little robot dolphin that lets us swim in the water where we find another machine part. I tried to do the rings minigame again, but one of the rings was too high, and after trying to get it for like 10 minutes, I realized we're probably gonna have to raise the water level. So we'll come back to this later. For now, I headed back to the first area of the level where I found this room with these 4 statues, and I figured the solution was to paint them the appropriate color. So green for the tree, red for the chili pepper, orange for the carrot, and red for the heart. But nothing happened. I thought maybe I needed to paint the leaf on the carrot, and I accidentally painted the entire wall in the background. It turns out what I thought was a chili pepper was actually supposed to be a banana, so I painted it yellow and that got us another ticket, and it caused this building to rise from the ground. Before heading inside though, I grabbed the last machine part in the pool behind it, as well as another health upgrade. So far, this level's been all about the puzzle solving with the paint colors, but in here, we get some more tricky platforming up these cogwheels. Then we gotta scale up this rotating statue and make our way to the top of the building. Once we're outside, we can climb to the very top for another ticket. Now that we have the machine parts, I headed back over there and we get an achievement for activating the machine that raises the water level, which also gets us a ticket in front of the new area that we unlocked. And now with the water level raised, we can finally do the ring minigame, and that gets us one more ticket. And there's even a third ticket hidden behind the machine, so that's a nice little 3-for-1 special. In the new area that we opened up, we have to swim past these whirlpools with the Finbot, then make our way down the tunnel and into this room with some more platforming challenges to activate these water jets. And I spent more time fumbling around here trying to get on top of them than I like to admit. Then we go down a big water slide, and at the end, we find another ticket. I'm only missing 2 tickets at this point, and we know one of them is for getting the tokens, but I could not figure out how to get this last ticket stuck behind this gate. So I had to look it up online, but what I should have done was just look up in the game and I would have found this sheep switch. It turns out we have to take another sheep and drop him under the water so he floats up and hits this switch. I'm kinda glad I looked this one up though. I don't think I would have ever figured it out on my own. After searching for a bit for the last token, I found it inside the tunnels with the dolphin, sneakily hidden so you wouldn't see it if you weren't checking behind you each room. That gets us our last ticket, and this time we get 3 more achievements, 2 of them for getting all the tickets and tokens like we normally do, but 1 more for getting our 25th ticket. Speaking of tickets, it's not just the levels that have them, but the hub world as well. One can be found by hooking onto this pole behind the level, and another could be found behind this secret door in the big whoopee statue. I also found the level switch that opens up the next level, but we need a new move to get to it. So I went back to go find Trinket outside of Paint Misbehavin, and he gives us the double jump. With that, we're able to jump over and hit the switch to open up the next level, mind blowing. And we get a nice little encounter with Jojo over the intercom. He tells us to go fall down a mine shaft somewhere, which is a great idea because there's actually a secret one on top of the new level that we just unlocked. And here we find a mini game where we have to run across these falling logs, collecting tokens along the way and getting another hub world ticket. But I did miss 1 token and I almost had my gamer license revoked here because it took me way too many tries to get this last one. In the next level, we're introduced to the bombs, which we can throw to blow stuff up, but if they touch anything, they'll explode and cause damage. We also grab the first machine part in this pit, and then we're introduced to the mischievous mushrooms. These guys will grab us, and then we have to do 3 jumps with the right rhythm to break free, and the 3rd jump goes really high. We use these in the next room to navigate up these stone pillars for our first ticket. We also find machine part number 2 in this room as well. Deeper into the mine, we get to this room where we find the 3rd machine part, and then we get introduced to these unstable gemstones, which are like the bombs, but to blow them up, you gotta touch 2 of the same color stones together. Just be careful because the blast radius is a lot bigger than the bombs. We grab the next ticket after blowing up some more rocks, and then head to the next room where we find this level's vehicle, the beam lift. We can use this guy to get this ticket stuck underneath this cage by flipping it over. We can also move around these big metal boxes so we can reach new areas like this pulley that takes us to the top of the room, where after some twisting platforms we find another ticket. We can also blow up this hole in the wall and use the beam lift to stack some boxes so we can reach it for another ticket. We can blow up these rocks with some bombs to get to the next area where we get to ride some minecarts and do some platforming as we have to jump out of them before they eject us. Then we gotta navigate some obstacles and hop back in. And this was pretty fun. I was expecting a Donkey Kong style minigame here, but I'm glad they went a different direction. At the end of the track, we have to get this clown to hold open the door for us so we can get our next ticket. In the next room, we have to blow up a few walls while dodging cannons, which is easier said than done. Then we gotta bring a bomb into this room to blow up the floor, where we get a ticket and hit this switch which activates an elevator in the main room. We also find 2 more machine parts here on the way out. We can jump into this hole before the elevator comes down and we find another machine part and a health upgrade. There's a room down here with these rolling boulders and we have to navigate through them while holding a bomb, and I really should have gone back for the tokens instead of trying to do this all at once. Eventually though, I was able to make it to the end and blow up this wall, and after dodging a few more rocks, we get the next ticket. I also saw another breakable wall that we need another bomb for, so I have to grab one from the very start of the level and try to bring it all the way down there. Behind that wall was another ticket. The last machine part was behind another breakable wall that I missed in the room with all the boxes, and with that we can get the achievement for completing the machine and another ticket for doing so. Then we gotta platform our way through the machine, hanging off of rotating handles, then navigating down corkscrewing platforms. These platforming bits inside the machines tend to be a lot harder, but thankfully there are checkpoints here, which is really nice. Just make sure you don't run out of health or you'll have to start over. We make it to the end where we have this super fast conveyor belt, and I somehow managed to not die to this, and I grabbed another ticket. All that's left now is finding the last token, and this one was sneaky. When I was editing, I actually saw it for a split second. It's in the room with one of these colored crystals behind you as soon as you walk in. Grabbing that gets us 3 more achievements just like last time, 2 for the tokens and tickets, and 1 for getting our 40th ticket. Back outside the level, we actually collected enough tokens that we get 2 new moves from Trinket, the Freeze Ray and the Grapple, so that's 2 more achievements as well. The Freeze Ray lets us create frozen platforms in any body of water, which we use to get to the ticket switch to activate the next level, Arabian Flights, as well as another health extension. I also grabbed a few more hub world tickets, one of them by swinging off these handles that we needed to do the double jump to reach. This one I found by accident just because I was collecting tokens, I didn't even know it was there. And then one more from a minigame I also discovered by accident while collecting a token. We have to throw these screws into these towers within the time limit, and I managed to grab the ticket with less than a second to spare. Arabian Flights has a machine piece hidden right behind us at the start, which I only found because that last token's making me start checking behind me more often. And we get our vehicle right at the start, and it's not difficult to see why, as this level is just several towers spread all over, and we'll need this magic carpet to fly around. In the blue tower, we have this switch which activates these magnets on the wall, and then we gotta stick a box to the wall to jump up, which is a much more humane way than sticking sheep to the walls, though a bit harder since I haphazardly threw these at the wall because of the time limit, but it was good enough and I got the first ticket. In the purple tower, we need to throw bombs at these swinging switches to activate the bridges, and then we use our ice beam in the next room to navigate down this stream around some electrified gates, and then around this whirlpool in the next room to get to this tower, and on top of that, we get our next ticket. Back outside, I find another ticket being carried by this big bird, so I had to chase him down to get it. And he led me to this ring minigame so we can test out our flying skills. This one did take me 2 tries because I straight up just lost track of the rings at some point, but that was just a skill issue. I was able to get it on my second try to grab another ticket. I grabbed the machine piece hidden in this small tower and then another one in this green tower which has a rotating platform where we gotta throw bombs at the targets while moving. And if we're not quick enough, we actually move down the tower, so I had to lock in and hit them enough times to climb to the top and grab another ticket. Then I flew to the red buildings and I found another machine part, and then I had to jump on these platforms to get across to the next ticket, which is hidden behind a force field. Then I realized to deactivate the force field, I needed to jump on all the platforms, so after figuring out the route, I got them all and that gets us another ticket. I found another ticket just hidden behind this blue building, and then we have this time switch inside this tower which opens up another one, and we have to fly to the next tower within the time limit to hit another switch. After 2 more towers, the last one deactivates this force field around the snake tower, which lets us get access to the ticket inside. I found the last 2 machine parts while exploring the level, which lets us activate the machine for an achievement and another ticket, as well as another difficult platforming section. First, we need to fall down this Plinko looking machine, following the arrows that lead us to these switches to activate these platforms. Then there's these spinning fans and we have to time it so we can get past them when they stop spinning. And I messed this up so many times because I was trying to get every token along the way, and each time that you get knocked off, you get sent flying back up the tower, and then you bonk your head on the crystal outside and take damage. I failed this so many times that eventually I learned if you time a double jump just right, you can actually kill your momentum and avoid taking that damage. Once I finally made it past the fans, I grabbed the ticket, and I'm so glad we're done with that because that took so much longer than it should have. The next ticket was hidden so well, I actually had to look up a guide to find it, which is something I try to avoid doing if I can, but I really don't think I would have ever figured this out. You have to fly under these crystals in a specific order: red, purple, blue, and green. Your only in-game clue to this is a very subtle audio cue that you get for flying under a crystal, but the only time you would do that is to collect this health upgrade, which also has a sound effect, so it kind of drowns that audio cue out. So I'm glad I looked up this one because I was never gonna get that. And while I had the guide open, I decided to look up the last token that I was missing. I probably would have found this one though. It's sneaky, but not fly under random objects in a very specific sequence type of sneaky. That last token gets us 2 more achievements and completes the level. To get to the next level, we have to use that grapple upgrade that we got a little bit ago. It works just like our regular tractor beam, but this time we can aim and fire it from a longer range. So that opens up the next level, Pyramid Scheme, and JoJo isn't very happy about it. I grab another health upgrade on top of this platform and we're off to the next level. This level starts with a big pyramid that contains this level's machine, and this switch which doesn't seem to do anything. In fact, as I explored the level, I encountered several rooms all which have these switches, so I'm guessing the machine is what activates them. There were a few things I can do though, like climbing all the way to the top of the pyramid to get the first ticket across the pond. And then there is this tile flipping puzzle, which we need to make it so that all the tiles are whoopee. It's one of those classic tile flipping puzzles. Each time you hit one, all the adjacent tiles flip. And you guys know me, I'm not so great at puzzles. I even somehow managed to do the exact opposite of what we were supposed to do. But from there, I was able to activate my brain cells and figure out the solution for another ticket. Deeper into the jungle, we see another place where we have to put some little screw guys, so we'll keep an eye out for those. This area also has like all of the machine parts, like seriously, all 8 of them are along this same path with these time platforming segments. I guess since this level has so many areas that require the machine, they had to make it so these were easy to find. So that's all 8 machine parts, and I did realize I missed the token. I see you running to the comments to point it out. Don't worry, I'll definitely remember to go back for that later. For now though, I grabbed the health upgrade in the corner here and then rounded up the rest of the screws to make this tower rise from the ground, and at the top we find the 3rd ticket. Now we headed back to the machine to get an achievement and a ticket. And now we can use this switch, which transforms the level into JoJo's Pyramid, full of lava pits and fireballs. Now that we can use the switches, we can go back to a few of those rooms that we explored earlier. This one has a rotating platform in the normal version, but in JoJo's Pyramid, the platform is destroyed with only a thin strip remaining. So we have to switch back to the regular level and position it so the arrow is pointing in the right spot, then quickly switch back so we can use the platform in that position to get to the other switch, then do it again so we can get to the ticket on the other side. At the top of JoJo's Pyramid, we can drop inside and we have ourselves a classic rising lava platforming escape segment for another ticket. A bit of a cliche, but I do enjoy it nonetheless. You know what's not cliche is the awesome motorcycle that we find here. And you might be thinking, what's so special about a motorcycle? Well, first off, this one's cool as hell. I mean, look at the snake fangs coming out the back of it. But check this out. It has wings! This isn't a motorcycle, it's the glider bike. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve to this one. I got stuck more times than I like to admit, but we do have this ring minigame which we can use for practicing, and once you get the hang of it, this thing is the best vehicle in the entire game. I absolutely love this thing. It's got the same kind of momentum-based gliding like in Mario 64, but it's so much more zippy and is quick to take off. Clearing the minigame gets us our next ticket, and now that we've gotten the hang of it, this level just got way more fun. Sadly, we gotta ditch it for now to get to the next ticket in this room with the floating rocks and the lava, but after we get that ticket, we're right back on it and we take it all the way up to the top of the map where we find these floating handles that lead to the next health upgrade. I had to do the same thing for a token, and I actually messed up my jumps because I was laughing at it just bouncing around in the background. I found a room that we couldn't explore earlier, and this room has us platforming our way to the top while switching back and forth between the regular level and JoJo's level. I thought that was a pretty cool concept. It kind of reminds me of the day-night mechanic from Fungi Forest and Donkey Kong 64, which, just as a side note, I know so many of you guys suggested me to play that after my Banjo video, and I absolutely will at some point, but that's an incredibly long game, so I have to wait till I can devote a little more time to it. Maybe I'll get a few of these shorter videos made so I have something to upload every week while I'm working on it. I do get tons of game recommendations and I do check them all out. I even add them to my want to playlist on retro achievements if it's something I think I'd enjoy. Right now, the plan is to stick to the games I know from my childhood, one because that's what I kind of set out to do when making this channel, but also because it makes the video creation process a little easier on me if it's a game that I'm familiar with. But I will eventually do games that you guys recommend even if I haven't played them before, so please feel free to keep the suggestions coming. We got our ticket on the top of the room, and then we're back on the glider bike trying to reach the very top of the level. And after finally managing to hop off the bike and grab onto the handles, I completely choked the last jump and fell all the way back down. So I had to climb all the way back up there, but at least we got another achievement for our 65th ticket. The next ticket involves these rotating tablets, and I could not figure out what the correct order is. I explored the level thinking there'd be something that hints as to what the correct order is, but I just wasn't seeing it. So again, I had to look it up, and the order was purple, pink, orange, purple. I still have no idea how I was supposed to figure that out. If anybody knows, please let me know in the comments. Even the guide that I looked up didn't explain it. Our last ticket is for the tokens, and remember how I said I would definitely remember to go back for this one? Yeah, I didn't. I spent 40 minutes looking for this before remembering about it. But that gets us 2 more achievements, and we're unfortunately gonna have to say goodbye to the glider bike as we exit the level. And just like the last level, Food Fright is just handing out machine parts like they're candy, which is fitting considering this level's Halloween and candy vibe it has going on. Every single machine part is along the path that surrounds the giant machine in the middle. They're not all hidden, so we get all of them pretty easily. Along the way, I also found the first ticket using these marshmallow enemies who act like the mischievous mushrooms. There's also this monster scale and a bunch of candy nearby. I thought I had to put them all on the scale, so I did that while dodging this robot who tries to grab the candy from you. But nothing was happening, and I took way too long figuring this out, but the goal is to not overload the scale, but to figure out what the correct combination of candies is to get just enough weight so the needle goes to the gold tooth. So once I figured that out, that got us the next ticket. Then I went back to activate the machine, which gets us another achievement and ticket, and that activates these spinning arms that orbit the entire level, so I see why the machine parts were so easy this time around. We got another ticket on top of this guy's eyebrows, and then we can also grab this health upgrade from on top of the cage that held the first ticket. And since that's our final health upgrade in the game, we also get an achievement for collecting all of them. I started scaling the big machine to get to the next area, and I really appreciate the developers putting a fast travel inside the room at the top through the straw that leads back to the bottom area. Inside a pipe, we find this troll who wants to be fed candy, so we have to feed him the correct colors. Just for fun, I wanted to see what happens if we gave him the wrong color, and this guy literally goes, "Yuck, troll want yellow gumdrop." So I give him one, but right before I throw it, he says I took too long and now he wants an orange. Now I don't feel bad that we fed him so much that he literally explodes. Inside the first room, there is this ring minigame. I assumed we needed a vehicle like all the other ones, but nope, this one's an obstacle course for Rocket to test our quick platforming skills. It was a little tricky because I kept fighting with the camera at first, but eventually I learned to just work with it and take some blind jumps, and I was able to get it for another ticket. The next ticket's at the end of this swinging handlebar section, which is also tough because the camera stayed back, so it requires a good sense of depth perception, which I did not have, but eventually I got it. We have another climb to get to the top of the room, and this spinning platform bit was the hardest because of how irregularly the platforms spin. I'll be honest, I don't even think I really figured it out fully, I kind of just winged it and it worked out. So we get another ticket, and we can now access the very top of the level where we get to ride around on this spider rider. It's not as cool as the glider bike, but to be fair, you really can't top that one. Using a bomb, we can hit this switch, which spawns in a giant monster in the center of the room. And I really should have grabbed this token first because I almost died trying to get it, but thankfully my pro gaming skills came in clutch here. Oh, I got stuck, and the only way out is to jump into the radioactive water with only 1 health left. Well played, game. Shout out to the devs once again for a second fast travel back to this room. We gotta do a turtle flipping minigame, and once they're all belly up, it opens this gate for another ticket. Then we're back to the monster for the next 2. The first one we get by throwing bombs at his eyes, and we have to get both of them in time, which was hard because it's a very tight window. I actually somehow got it even though his other eye went back open, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and by the time I figured it out, he came back up. So I had to do it again, this time hopping on his back quick enough to get the ticket at the top. Then we have to go inside his mouth for the next ticket, and we have to navigate through this obstacle course, and it's a good thing I got all the health upgrades because this was brutal. I eventually just gave up trying and I just brute forced it to get the ticket. And I still got taken out before I could leave. I picked up the last token, which gets us the last ticket, and 2 more achievements to complete the level. And that was actually the last level in the game. All that's left now is the final showdown against JoJo, but before we do that, we got a few more tickets to grab in the hub world. I didn't realize this until now, but there's actually a hints tab in the pause menu, and it'll give you a clue as to where to find the tickets. I really like this. Obviously you can just look up a guide online, but I like finding things myself, and sometimes I just want to nudge in the right direction instead of the outright answer. That said, I still needed a guide for this one because I was struggling to get inside this statue's mouth, and I was thinking this is too hard, this probably is not what I'm supposed to be doing, but no, I was right, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. It's just really hard to get in there. So I'm not even going to count that one as one that I had to look up. I just need a reassurance that this was the right direction. Inside there we get a puzzle involving these switches to activate these pillars, and we just gotta do it in the right order to get to a ticket at the top. The next one's in a hidden path that these tokens are pointing to, and then the last one is in that same area inside this room where we gotta do some platforming while avoiding the lava, which was not going well for me. Oh, and of course I get to the end and I only have 1 token left to collect, and I just knew that I had to be in there somewhere, so I went back into the fray and spotted it, and I was fighting for my life to stay alive until it comes back around. With 1 health left, I managed to grab it, and poor Rocket got tossed around immediately after. But we did get 2 more achievements, because not only did we get every hub world token, but that was actually our final token in the game. At this point, we have everything except for 1 final ticket, which we'll get for defeating JoJo. So we head to JoJo World for the final battle. And I love the design of this world. It literally looks like bits and pieces of all the worlds that we visited hastily thrown together and held up by loose nails and duct tape, which really fits the theme since this is JoJo's creation. But it's also so cool to travel through little mini versions of all the previous levels like this. He even brought back this guy, and I didn't realize I was supposed to get the colors first, but I managed to save myself a trip back by getting this paint cannon to give me the right color combination. I probably spent more time doing this than just going back to the start of the area, but I like to think this was the more pro gamer way of doing it. Though missing the jump right after wasn't very pro gamer of me, so I had to redo the whole area anyway. But it's nice that there are checkpoints here so you don't have to replay the entire level. The next area has a spinning fan behind this wall, and we have to blow up the blades before it takes out all of our platforms, then jump on top of it to navigate to the end. And I thought this was really cool because it's sort of like a make your own bed situation. The longer you take to break the blades, the more time it'll take to cross the spinning bridge. I really just can't stress how amazing this level is. I think it's the perfect example of how to do a final level. It takes all the things that you learn throughout the game and then puts them all to work in one big final challenge. And the whole time, JoJo's in the background following you and taunting you. The only part I wasn't a fan of is this spider section. You have to toss bombs at each of its limbs, and it took a pretty long time and kind of broke up the pacing a bit, especially if I were to die here, which would also suck because I'm down to only 3 health left, just to add a little pressure to the situation. Thankfully I didn't, and once we're past him, JoJo's starting to sound a little more desperate. Look at his dumb face inside that machine. He's looking like that one Monsters Inc. meme. That's the face of a rat who knows he's about to be cooked. As we get closer and closer to the finish, he's literally begging us to stop, but he can't do anything as we roll the big ball of doom faster and faster down the track until we smash through his machine. And with that, we beat the game. JoJo gets flattened by Whoopi, and we save the park. Dr. Gavin says there's still tokens and tickets to collect, but if he would just wait like 2 minutes, he would see we only have 1 final ticket to collect. And once we grab it, it triggers the last few achievements, and we have officially mastered Rocket Robot on Wheels, making this my 7th mastery on retro achievements. I absolutely loved this game. It definitely lived up to the nostalgia for me. And now I'm even more upset that more people aren't aware of this game. It's such a great 3D mascot platformer with some really unique mechanics. I mean, come on, look at the credits! This game doesn't do anything boring like a regular credit screen. If you want to know who to thank, you gotta chase down every screw, which represents one of the developers. How cute is that? More games need to do a playable credit screen. I know WarioWare does it, and Monkey Ball. I'd love to know if there's any other games that do this too. Honestly, gameplay-wise, I think Rocket is on par with games like Banjo-Kazooie. It might not be as polished, but there's a lot of fun ideas packed into this game, and the tractor beam and the physics of the items is something that other 3D platformers at the time weren't really doing, so that makes it pretty unique. And the vehicles in each level were a lot of fun too. As far as retro achievements goes, this is a fantastic set for beginners. None of the achievements were difficult, they're all pretty straightforward. If you 100% the game, you 100% the achievements. You don't gotta do any extra challenges like defeating the boss damage list or anything like that. Not that I personally wouldn't have minded that, but if you're looking for a more casual and laid back achievement set, or if you're new to retro achievements, this is a pretty great game to start with. Sadly, I think the likelihood of them ever making a remaster of this game or a sequel is pretty low. Sucker Punch seems to have moved away from making platformers, but I'm glad this channel gives me a reason to revisit this game. And if I inspired anybody to give it a try, then that's even better. So if you're a fan of platformers like Banjo-Kazooie, maybe give this one a try to hold you over while we wait for a game developer brave enough to bring back mascot platformer collectathon games. That's gonna do it for today's video, everybody. I really hope you all enjoyed it. The timing of this was perfect because my last video for Yu-Gi-Oh! Reshef of Destruction took so much more effort, so I was so happy to do an easier game this time. And this game is special to me, so I really wanted to make a video about it. Every once in a while, I want to cover a less popular game like this, and also like the Hot Wheels Turbo Racing video that I made. And it really means a lot to me that so many of you guys are interested in my videos, even if it's for games you haven't heard of. As always, likes and comments are always appreciated. I'm uploading a new video every week, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to follow me over on Twitch for live streams. You can also follow me on Retro Achievements as well if you want a sneak peek at what I'm currently playing, or you want to compare games. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to wear a helmet when riding the glider bike.